All right, before I continue on with the Star Wars Revenge of the Nerdsith, this is part two. I have a very good announcement. It has come to my attention that one of my recent posts. Now, I talked about the Red Tide. I talked about blacklisting the McCarthy era. You can hear it loud and clear on my videos on YouTube. They removed my sound for TikTok. So I had no copyright video or audio. I did talk about Joey Diaz, but they removed all of my sound for the blacklisting topic. So because of that, after tonight, I did put up the plumbing videos together as a compilation to show off my plumbing skills. But after tonight, there will be no more TikTok videos until Elon Musk or somebody else on the right buys up TikTok or ByteDance. Done with it. You can fuck off, China. You can go fuck off. You and your 125% fucking, you can go fuck your mother's ass. I am done with you. I am done. Chinese Americans, you're all cool. I like Chinese Americans, but the Chinese government can go fuck itself until it dies. I don't care if they helped us out with North Korea going to bomb us over a fucking movie 10 years ago, 11 years ago. This is ridiculous shit. I don't like censorship. I don't like being censored. Fuck the censorship, okay? I should be able to talk about what I want to talk about within reason. This is ridiculous. This is the 20th time this has happened. So for all of you who follow me across different platforms, if you don't see any more videos after tonight on TikTok, you now know why. I don't like censorship. Fuck censorship. Now, on with the fucking show. Now, before we continue on, when I saw episode 3, the sort of the general idea about Darth Vader coming, the origin of Darth Vader, right? Anakin turns to the dark side, becomes Darth Vader. I had often thought about what the trailer would look like, the teaser trailer, right? We would see Vader, at the very end of the trailer, because we only, and before we learned, we only get 5 minutes of Darth Vader, literally 5 fucking minutes of Darth Vader in the whole movie, because it was about how he got there, not that he's there. So this is all prequel, right? But I wondered about that Death Star, the Geonosian insects, the bugs, right? The sort of the cricket-looking people. They have the plans for the Death Star, but I imagined a different story in my head. I imagined that Obi-Wan, all the Jedi, they learned about the Death Star, and it's supposed to be this peaceful space station, and then they learned it's all a trick, and they were all tricked, right? So like when Vader says to Obi-Wan, "You should not have come back," was he on the Death Star in episode 3? Were the Jedi on the Death Star? And this is supposed to be this final push against the separatists, this Death Star, and oh, it's a good weapon. No, it's a good thing, and everybody's in on it until they learn the truth, and then they turn on Vader, or the Vader and the clone troopers, now stormtroopers, turn on the Jedi. But the Death Star, of course, now we all know, has a very small cameo at the very end. But all this time, I wonder, we're going to see it being built maybe at the top of the halfway through, just like in Return of the Jedi, and we're going to go in there, we're going to see the Death Star, the interiors, everything's fine. It's like, we wonder what's going on here, right? So nobody knows about it. Now we know the element is that nobody knows it's a Death Star that destroys planets until we get to A New Hope. But that's what made Star Wars Rebels interesting. That's what made Crystal Crisis and Utapau, the deleted episodes, interesting. That's what made it all interesting. Okay? And so now we know but it was the version of episode 3 that we had in our heads before the teaser trailers, before it came out. And there are some people, like I went to like Frankenstein's, and they would say, "Oh, it's gotta be a 4-hour movie." It was not a 4-hour movie, but it was more than 2 hours. Now this is crucial because it's the first time we see dreams being this sort of alternate reality, and it was like just. Of course, he had it before in Attack of the Clones, but dream sequences, or that was a new thing for Star Wars, because whatever you saw on the shot in the frame, right, was what was really happening, not a fear or anything like that. It was what you were seeing was what could happen. It does happen, right? But it was just we had never seen into the dreams of characters before at that point. Everything was like what everybody was seeing. So that was something to me. And here we go out into the balcony. It's a beautiful shot. Now this is now when I the minute I saw this, it gave me that Return of the Jedi vibes. Mostly when Luke goes to Leia, right? And or no, I think Leia goes to Luke. Actually, Luke is on the sort of the path, the archway, the pathway between the Ewoks' houses, right? Because the Ewoks live in these treetop houses, which they duplicated in Donkey Kong Country. But here we get to the balcony, and in Return of the Jedi, Luke has to tell Leia that he's Vader's his father, Vader's your father. We're brother and sister, so it's all dumped in one scene. But here it's just talking about the future, not sure where everything's going. And there's a similar scene like this when he's holding the looks like a little Game Boy Advance or smart device, and they're having a conversation. And there's Obi-Wan is sort of the focal point. And I think it's like George Lucas said in his commentary, it's about being on the same moral side. Padme and Obi-Wan are on the same moral side, not romantic, but on the same moral side, to try to go against Anakin, to try to get him to do the right thing. But at some point he went too far. Always liked the Sopper scene. Now I remember seeing pictures of the aquatics, not the Aqualay, the Mon Calama, right? And they showed the costumes. This was in the concept art. Um, I don't think it was Doug Chang. It might have been Trisha Bigar. Difficult to say if Trisha Bigar drew the aliens. The only reason like Trisha Bigar, and I haven't heard her name in a long time, but because Doug Chang still does art for movies, but Trisha's the one that does the costumes, and you kind of have to know how to draw uh, people and creatures, I think, to get the costumes. But I remember that you would see the Mon Calama. Now the Mon Calama, you can see them, but they're like you could cover with your index finger and you'd miss them, right? So they're just dancing around. It's sort of the opposite of what Jabba the Hutt's performance with the Jedi rock stuff. There's something much more elegant, much more serious. So at this point, Palpatine appoints him to be spying on the Jedi Council. And the whole stupid scene. I do like. I will say when Anakin's in the council to try to be on the, he can't be granted the rank of master, but he's appointed council. But that beautiful green, blue, yellow sky was really nice. I mean, I don't think you'll ever see that in real life, right? Maybe. But like it's that weird sunset where it's not exactly orange and red and dark like in real life. It has this very olive green and aqua blue color to it. Such a nice scene. That's probably my favorite Jedi Council scene. So they're having a chat here, conversation. We learned about Darth Plagueis. I always had a feeling when I saw this. Now, I didn't talk about where I saw this. I saw it at a movie theater, obviously. I was 27 years old. I saw it at it's now Regency Theaters in Commerce. I saw it at Pacific Theaters, okay? Very ghetto, and I bet you it still is a very ghetto theater. I would not go there again if you paid me, okay? I can go to Cinepolis. I'll go to a nicer theater. Cinepolis is a much nicer theater. Fuck Regency Theaters. You can fuck off. Because it's a nicer place. Why would you want to go? And that's like one of the few places you could play arcades anyway. But the arcade's better at Cinepolis. But anyway, so when I saw this in the theaters, I suspected Darth Plagueis to be an alien creature. Now, I forget if it's a Nautolan. It's that alien with the checkerboard face and the thorns sticking out of his head. He has like, not like a Zabrak. Unlike the Zabraks, unlike Maul and the one guy from the Jedi Council, Ceci Tin. No, not Ceci Tin. This one guy, the horns come out at the sides of on the front of the face. So I always figured Darth Plagueis would be this ugly, sort of thorny looking character, grim, right? But it turned out to be immune. But it was a little surprise to me, but I knew he was not going to be human. Like Palpatine was serving an alien, and like my feeling was that he would die in this dark cave, and Palpatine and Plagueis would be in these dark caves, hiding from everyone. Uh, with bad lighting, right, in a cave, right? If you hide in a cave, right, and that he would die in his sleep, and then, or maybe Palpatine had killed him, which you could suspect that in the chronology book before James Luceno even wrote the novel, right? He had different versions of his novel. He wanted to do immortality. In the chronology book that was published in 2005, shortly after the movie came out, Palpatine suspected that when Plagueis had somehow created Anakin from the Force, that he was creating his replacement, and then he had killed him. That was in the book, so that was like practically canon. Okay, it's technically still not canon unless it is shown or some character confirms it. Hopefully not the Jedi, because Ki-Adi-Mundi wasn't supposed to see any fucking Sith, and they fucked that up. Fucking Leslie Headland fucked that up, didn't she? So here we're back at the Trade Federation ships. And there's Obi-Wan on the dragon. And I wish, I don't know if it was Matthew Wood or if it was Ben Burt. Remember Ben Burt? He did Lincoln. He did the movie with Lincoln. Daniel Day-Lewis was Lincoln, and he did the music for that. I think he's mostly retired. Matthew Wood is still around, but I had wondered how they did the sound for the Boga. If anybody knows the answer to that, please write in the comments below, because that Boga sounds like an air horn, and it's just this wah 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 wah. I don't even know how they did it. Ben Burt would know. If he didn't work on it, he would know the answer to that. But that's one of the few people that maybe Star Wars Theory should track down. Because we got to talk about Dennis Muren and Ben Burt. All those people. Phil Tippett with the puppets, right? So this is Grievous getting everybody to Mustafar. It's all these chess moves that Palpatine has to do. But what a beautiful planet Utapau is. You could get lost in that planet. Each planet has its own beauty. Maybe that's why I like Lego Star Wars so much, playing that game. Okay, so here it's almost like looking at the Death Star 2, but instead of over. Yeah, they had changed this from Obi-Wan and Mace and Yoda to this whole conference room. And then they merged it over with, the Clone Wars and Ahsoka. So we got to this point. I knew, because he had already seen him once, right? Which kind of mirrored episode 2, where they're walking towards the entrance in the shadows. And then they had talked again. And here he's confronting him. But I knew when I saw this in theaters that this was going to be more. That this was just not another visit. And here's a wonderful frieze. Not the exact same frieze. Actually, this frieze is digital. And I do believe the frieze, Frieze, it's like a 3D mural, right? But this one's digital, and then the other one from Jabba the Hutt's palace was physical. I don't know if that frieze is still around. They probably destroyed it. That's a shame. That's a shame. Somebody will let me know. Yeah, it's half broken and shit. Somebody has it off of eBay. Yeah, so this is where the confrontation happens. Yeah, so he gives a little bit away that he was Plagueis' apprentice. You know the dark side. Maybe this was too close to the Jar Jar scene. Maybe that's why they took it out. What did you say? Use my knowledge. So this is the revelation and the end of the Clone Wars here. But really, Order 66 is the end, which we'll get to in probably next part. But yeah, I always thought when I saw, you see when he turns his head to say "not from a Jedi," I could see George Washington. Can you not see George Washington? I mean, everybody says, "Oh yeah, that's Palpatine," because Ian McDiarmid, but he could have played George Washington very well. He could still do it, but he has that George Washington face. Anyway, so this is the revelation part, and of course he doesn't completely turn. He's got to turn him in and all that. basically, I knew he was going to say, "I can feel your anger," because he says that in Return of the Jedi. So a lot of things are mirrored. It was very easy to predict what was going to happen because George Lucas kept everything a little predictable. Even when they announced Revenge of the Sith is the title, because people would guess Rise of the Empire, the end of Anakin Skywalker, the death of the Jedi, or whatever. People would guess the title to it, and they revealed the title mere months before the release, and people say, "Oh yeah, of course, it rhymes. It rhymes with Return of the Jedi, Revenge of the Sith, of course." But remember, Revenge of the Jedi was the original title for Episode 6. So then he just said, "Okay, well, Sith can take revenge. That's fine." And I love this. Now, this was supposed to be in Lego Star Wars, the video game, or I think maybe in the complete saga. We never got it. We never got this, and neither in the other games. But it's very similar to the upcoming Anakin versus Obi-Wan, in which we have one level, then another level, then another level. This is far evolved from the original fight on the Death Star all those years ago. You go back 28 years, that was a different time. You know, Alec Guinness and David Prowse during that fight. It was so simple. At this point, this is going to get bad. But say when civilized, you know, trying to get that whole Alec Guinness thing because you try to sound more like Alec. But yeah, I really enjoyed, you know, because he seemed like this unstoppable force. Now, he says, and I do remember this was the original. I don't know if it was in the book, but in the original script, it was like, I have learned your Jedi arts from Count Dooku, and my apprentice was the one who killed your master. But they took that out. I don't know if it was ever spoken, but it's not in this final cut. So it's better just let Grievous talk and just let Obi-Wan just watch him go crazy. But you know, the fact that he goes from this bonsai, you know, grand master here spinning the blades, and then turning into a caterpillar climbing up the walls, and finally like turning into a construction. What is it? An erector set climbing around into the Grievous bike, and then they do that whole chase, and that was really neat. So finally, we get to this battle, and yeah, it gets bloody here, but he gets close enough because he can do that. And Obi-Wan and I have one thing in common. I had to learn how to be a plumber, and he had to learn how to use a blaster. All right, see you all for part 3.